Hello, everybody. Welcome to what Kristen and I are now calling Spilling Tea, which I love. I love that name. Really, Kristen is an amazing entrepreneur and podcaster herself, and I got my world. And so we're going to, I don't know, just kind of come together and talk about anything that comes to mind. If you're watching, I will say that the chat bar is open. So this is on YouTube. And Kristen, wherever you're streaming it. So I think we should be able to see them if you come on. So go ahead and do that. All right, Kristen, how have you been? It's been a month since I've talked to you. So
I know, a little over a month. I look forward to these, and I try and track what happened, but it's been such a busy month. Literally, we were catching up. I'm like, what happened this week? I'm like, I have to check my calendar on my phone because I don't even know what happened this week. And I made
crazy.
Yeah, I made this post busy as a blessing, or not post, but just story, and balance is a lie. But it's all good. So it's good that things are moving, and you just got to give yourself grace when it's going and it's a little bit messy, and that's kind of where I feel like I'm at now. But it's all stuff I've wished to come in, so we're in it.
You know what? It's funny. Last night I was thinking, so I got home really late last night, which for me is 11:30 or 12
That's
or something
late.
like that. For me, I'm in bed by 9. I went to the graduation of one of our fire kids from back in the day when we had it at Palladium. So it was a wonderful evening. But one of the things I've learned that's helped me is because that used to derail me because I'd be so exhausted. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm never going to get over this, is everything is temporary. And when I remember that, like that exhausted feeling that I had when I went to bed, where I'm like, oh my God, I have to wake up in the morning and I got, like we got to go live and I got to go to a CrossFit class, and blah, blah, blah. Like knowing that it's temporary is such a good, I don't know. It's a good feeling to me because then I don't worry so much about how I'm feeling in the moment because I know it's not going to last.
I love that. And I want to offer one more thing that plays onto that I heard once from someone, and it's your life is not an emergency. So nothing is expired. I mean, as much pressure as we put on ourselves and deadlines and all the things, like it's honestly not going to end if you don't. And I always think back to my college days. Like if I wasn't there on time or if I didn't complete a run, like my life was going to end because you're on scholarship and like the pressure was so, or CrossFit, even competing. Like sometimes there's moments in life where the pressure is so hard, like your life kind of is depending on it. Rarely are you in that mode. So that's kind of the upside of being in such a competitive situation is like life is actually like, you're fine. It's going to be okay.
Yeah. And those moments of actual pressure are few and far between.
Right. So you can recognize when.
Okay, so this kind of totally plays into what we were starting to talk about offline, and I was like, let's wait about stimulus in your brain. So I couldn't wait to share this with you. I was so excited because I've been doing this experiment for the last 2 weeks, and a little bit longer, but the last 2 weeks I've really dialed it up. So here's the real is I go to bed with the iPad. I was every night. And
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and I do it because I have a really hard time shutting off my brain. So, and I love Arrested Development. I love that show. Jason Bateman is like the love of my life. If you're out there, Jason.
I can see that on all levels.
Oh my God. This is total side note, but I have a cutting board. It's the shape of a fish. I should have brought it. It's over in the kitchen, but that I made in 8th grade. And on the back of it, it says, I heart Jason Bateman from back in his Silver Spoon days.
Okay. I thought you were going to say you had like a cardboard cutout and sitting by your bed. I was like, okay, we're on no judgment. Let it be known.
No, I think Jeff would be like, that's odd. That would be as far down in our relationship.
Yellow flag.
He's like, I don't know if I need Jason Bateman watching me. So I do that every night. And then I noticed, because I know it's a bad habit, right? But it shuts off my brain. I fall asleep faster, but then I wake up through the night anyway. I'm not a good sleeper. So like all these things were kind of adding up. And then I realized every time I take my dogs for a walk or just go for a walk or go for a hike or I'm cooking dinner, or I'm cleaning, there's always something playing in the background. Even when I work during the day, I tend to have things playing in the background, not because I'm watching, but because I thought I liked the stimulus. I think what I realized is I was overloading myself to the point where my body almost needed it, and not in a good way. Mm-hmm. So I decided, I was like, this is stupid. I'm going to try to change this. So I'm going to not watch anything, stream anything all week at all in any way. So no podcasts, no, which is like against what I do for a living, but no shows, no nothing. And when I walk the dogs, and I've been rucking, so I've been doing it with like a weighted vest or with a weighted pack, which I really actually love. I'm not going to take anything with me because normally that's when I listen to my Murder, Death, Kill podcast because they're so good. But I stopped. And it has been really eye-opening and really uncomfortable all at the same time. But I think what's starting to happen after 2 weeks of doing it is my body has started to calm down a little bit. Like, I think I was
Okay.
keeping myself in a state of anxiety because all the stimulus was it didn't matter what the stimulus was. It was just
Yeah.
coming in all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is my own little personal experiment, Kristen, so I want your perspective on it because you're a little more zen than I am, I think. So a little more
Sort of.
evolved.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true on any level, but received, and thank you. I am exactly with you, and
Yeah,
shout out to Laura, our mutual friend that we love so
yeah.
much. And I don't know if I announced on our last podcast, but Turmeric and Tea got its first sponsor, Lux Neuro, longtime homie in the
Woo-hoo. I
game.
love her.
Oh, Laura's ahead of the game on so many levels, and I have been a neurofeedback human since 2017,
Yeah,
one of my first clients for KO Alliance. And I was like, I love what this is and what it's about, but I don't know what it is. And I can't endorse and or promote or do marketing for something I don't know. So I did 52 sessions, was a fan. And that's kind of, I even like, said, Laura, I'm like, you got to get into this. So it's kind of been this full circle thing. And I've done 2 brain maps, and I just did one this week with Laura. So I'm so anxious to see what my brain is.
ooh,
I already know I'm like 90% processed. Like I know I'm fast brain. I even asked her, I'm like, is there anything you see before you do the full in-depth map and reveal? And she's like, fast brain. I'm like, I see that. And I think you are very similar to me. And like a lot of us, we are fast brain, like high motivation, like it's moving. And we
yeah,
exist in a world where we are entrepreneurs. So you got to be doing social media, you got to be posting, you
yeah,
got to be like, we have this narrative of doing in addition to our brain. So it's kind of like coming at us from all angles. And it's hard for me, at least, especially right now when I'm on ramping and taking this podcast on full time, to take a moment and be like, oh, let's relax. So it's like, oh no, I have 5
yeah,
minutes. What else can I do? Like, what can I get in
yeah,
right now? Make a post. And it's like, no, actually, you don't. And intuitively, this
no,
is kind of on the opposite of science. I've just been having this intuition of like, get off the phone, do less. You've done the work. This isn't your early
yeah,
1999 to 2000 entrepreneurial stuff where you got a solid hustle. Like we've already done a lot of this. Just chill.
yeah,
But long story short, I'm not good at it. I do my meditation when I do morning. I do things to help, but I feel like it's kicked up even I've kicked back into that mode because we're back into like the entrepreneurial hustle.
yeah. Well, I think well, first of all, my brain is a very ugly and beautiful place at the same time, and I will
Said
tell you that
everybody.
yeah, the first walk I did without anything, the tracks in my brain, it was like verbal waterfall coming out of my brain of
Okay.
all the thoughts that like I don't want to say I couldn't control them. I think you can I don't know that you can control your thoughts, but you can choose not to listen to them or not listen to them is kind of how I look at it. But it was fascinating. And it started out relatively dark, like all the bad
Okay.
stuff. You know what I mean? I mean dark like I'm gonna go kill someone, but I mean
Yeah.
like negative, right? Like, oh, you're not where you want to be. Oh, this isn't working. Oh, you said this and that was stupid. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Like it list went on. But after I got all that out, then it became very peaceful and I
Okay.
felt good, right? Like I just felt good. And what I found over the last month of doing this, like I said, last 2 weeks I kind of dialed it up because now I'm not doing it as much on the weekends either because I don't crave it anymore at all.
Yeah.
And I think it has helped my body just calm down a little bit, you know? And I'm sure there's
Yeah.
more work to do, but I think we're overstimulated. And then here's the other thing I wanted to ask you about with this is or tell you, I guess, I don't know, ask and tell is so I think I told you I interviewed Dave Asprey yesterday and
Yeah.
for my podcast.
Awesome.
And those who yeah, he's super cool. And those who don't know him, he's the founder of the biohacking movement. Like he's long before Gary Brecka, Huberman, like all those guys came on his shoulders.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you might remember Bulletproof Coffee when that
I was
came
gonna say
out and the
it's
butter
still out there.
coffee.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
collagen
yeah,
bars
yeah.
and
Well,
everything. They're crushing it.
he's now on to Danger Coffee. He's no longer with Bulletproof, but he started all
Oh,
of it.
sold it? Okay.
Yeah, so I was really fascinated to hear his perspective, and he said something that I thought was super interesting. He said, he was talking about being triggered and how our brain is in fight, flight, or freeze all the time. We were just talking about how people generally are living very stressed out. It's kind of how it started. And he said, he goes, I found myself constantly being triggered. I'm going to paraphrase. And he started to do all this work to rewire his brain so that he doesn't get triggered. And I was
Mhm.
like, what do you mean don't get triggered? He said, well, and he, went on into a bunch of science about it. And But his point was like the narrative out there is that we manage our triggers. So someone says something that sets you off. So then we manage it with deep breathing, taking a step back, meditation, which all are good. But his point was if you can tackle it the step before, then you don't get triggered. And I was like,
well, how does he do that?
I was like, I could live a life not triggered. What are you talking about? Like, how is that possible?
That's my cardio though. Yeah.
Right. So he had a lot of examples on it, but like one of the first things he was talking about was obviously meditation and certain ways to meditate to kind of like rewire your brain, which is why I was going down a rabbit hole this morning. But I don't know. I want to stop there and let you fill in the blanks there. But he said that and I was like, wait, what do you mean? Like I cannot be triggered. I could rewire my brain to not care about all that kind of stuff. Like, because he was talking about how that's fear. That's fear coming up, and that's in your body. It's not just an emotion that you feel. It's like, and it's probably rooted in something, because someone 50 years ago said to you, you're stupid. So now anytime someone questions your judgment, that fear of what you thought, when you were a kid comes up. And fascinating to me.
It is. And one of the most exposed, under talked about conversation is the conversation around the brain and brain health and how scientifically based it is. And in addition, how our thoughts do then create our reality and can manifest into physical form. And that's why I love the science of, neurofeedback and whatnot, because you can do a brain map, see what's physically going on, your brain waves, beta, theta, what's overstimulated, what's understimulated. And it really brings the science side to us, and it lets go of the control piece where you think, depression is control or experience or nurture and nature. It doesn't really matter once it's there. It's measurable, and you can do things to break down those neural pathways that have formed to cope and get back to your actual neural pathways that were there initially or should be there. So I like this conversation because there's a point of healing that I don't think people really understand and know that that's an option. And I'm not even talking about, our busy brains. I'm talking, our soldiers with very serious PTSD, kiddos with, very serious ADHD, like situations where our humans are questioning life and like much more serious conversations. And the neurofeedback situation can go, from a casual sports performance or ADHD or focus, what have you, to those more serious situations. But I just like that there's the science conversation around it. And Dave asked me, so interesting. These are like blue light blocking glasses, and I went to PaleoFX, I don't even know, like 10 years ago. And that's when I started getting the blue light blocking glasses.
He's still big in that.
Yeah, some of them are a bit obnoxious. PaleoFX is like the extra of the extra. But it's all like super interesting stuff to consider. And I love that you brought this to light, because we think we have control over some of these things because we are triggered, but really some of it is just hardwired in there, or is a defense mechanism of something that had happened, and it can be healed and taken care of. I'm curious to know some of the things he talked to you about that you can control as far as getting ahead of the trigger.
So his whole thing was his big thing is tools to hack. Right. Yeah. So he's got these upgrade labs, and it's a lot about like, doing all this kind of different kind of stuff. But in that conversation about triggering, he was talking about doing things that release the trauma. Basically, he didn't use the word trauma, but that was kind of the gist of what he was saying. So, in fact, that's why this morning I was looking up the vagus nerve, how to release the vagus nerve. So I was like, I don't know, I went down a rabbit hole this morning, but he was talking about things in that way that you like meditation, right? But not just like sit and breathe meditation, but really present and focused meditation, and it releases things. Talking about there's certain exercises you can do. I don't know if you've ever seen the Workout Witch. Have you seen her?
The what?
Workout Witch. Oh, check her out. She does a lot of somatic releases. It's cool. She has a whole program on it. She's become pretty popular. But there's like certain things. So he didn't say this, but I know from experience that acting like a gazelle does it. Have we talked about this?
I know animal movements and stuff, like animal flow.
Okay. So if you've ever seen me go like this, that means I'm like trying to shake something off. So gazelles, right? Because here's why. Because gazelles, let's say they just got attacked by a lion and they survived. They can't live the rest of their life in that trauma of being attacked by the lion, because they have to eat, they have to procreate, they have to find their herd, they have to move, right? So when they get through that, they actually do this big shaking movement, and that's them like shaking off what just happened, and then they get about doing whatever it is they're doing. So Like, I think sometimes we as humans, we have a traumatic event and then we hold on to it.
Absolutely.
And then
Yes.
it becomes part of our pathways, right? And then we have
We
a
build the
really hard
story.
time letting go. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's so deep. So the gazelle thing I think is super cool because it kind of forces you to physically let go of it in the moment.
Yeah, I love that. I'll lean into
Yeah.
that. I will, because I do, as much as I'm saying, like, you do need to go do the brain map and get like certain things unpacked and like scientifically undone. I do also believe in the more topical
Mhm.
solutions, is like meditating, but consciously like feel like my headspace, which is, very simple and basic, talks about
Yeah.
seeing the thought, letting it be there, acknowledging, and then letting it flow. And just that practice in itself is awesome. And I love the idea of shaking it off. And so much in nature is already there. There was something on the news this week. Maybe this is what I was going to tell you that I thought was really cool, where they had a gorilla. I don't know if it was in the wild or the zoo, but somewhere where they could do the studies, and it had a massive cut on its head, and it went over to a certain tree and was taking the part of like inside the tree, it's like juice or
Oh.
whatever, and putting it on the cut, and the cut went away like 2 weeks later. So the animals intuitively knew what healed them and knew how to, navigate the forest to find this homeopathic thing that healed their cut. So the answers are like all around us. Humans make it complicated. Sometimes it is just about observing nature and seeing what intel it is, just like our thoughts, like observing it and then taking what you need and then letting it fly.
Well, and I think sometimes too, that's fascinating. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes so lately my knees have been bothering me. And
Okay.
I will tell you, it's more like Jackie and I were talking about this last night because she was at that graduation too. It's more like they feel unstable. That's the best way to describe it,
Yeah.
right? It's hurt, but they're a little kind of, and I've got some inflammation around them because of some competitions and age, right? Some other things. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I'm talking to people about it. And one guy's like, oh, well, I know someone who got these injections and it's totally, been better. But he has to get them every 3 months, right? Oh, I know this one who did this knee surgery. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't want to go down that path. So I started to think about like, okay, what can I do to kind of fix this? So I started doing these stretches that kind of helps with the quads, right? Pulling and then like rolling out the calves. And I did a little bit of Advil because I was like, I think there's some inflammation that's just not going away. And sure enough, I was telling Jeff yesterday, I woke up with like everything fine. And I
Yeah.
was like, see,
Yeah.
like I think
Yeah.
sometimes we jump right to the big
Problem.
medical, and I'm not against modern medicine. I think it's a wonderful thing. And to your point, I feel like there's some things in nature before that
Yeah. Well,
would
and
be
what a great metaphor, because we then jump to like, oh, I don't know what he's doing. Oh, he's cheating on me. Like we go immediately to like the biggest thing, even thought wise.
yeah.
And that spars me to a thought about the inflammation. Usually pain is inflammation, and it is treatable with anti-inflammatory, but more, I always encourage people, because experience this personally, of like, does your life feel inflammatory? Like, is this a point in life? Like, I know we both have these big goals and we're kind of like in the thick of this hustle, and
Yeah.
we're excited because we feel all this opportunity on the horizon and it's right there. So we're close. And I think we're both kind of, shedding skin and getting into like the newer versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And with that, it's like this constant angst, and it's like it is inflammatory. So it's like you do have to pause. And I think, yes, turmeric and things can, uninflame you. And I think just calming down and letting, like, even thinking about blood flow and letting your body process will let it go. I was working with another client that we're trying to figure out this really great blood test to do like some biohacking type things, human optimization, and find out, if we can do blood tests and find out, directly what a root cause of some things are.
Mm.
Anyways, I was like the guinea pig of doing it. Like, God, your liver enzymes are popping up. And I'm like, well, it's not tequila. It was the thick of the games. I'm like, we're not drinking. It's not that. Not that we were ever a drinker on that level. But as I did some work, my liver's associated with anger. And I was really in a training situation where I
Really?
was angry. Oh yeah. I was angry, and I just didn't say a lot. And I was just kind of caught in a rock and hard space. And this is a whole other
Yeah.
podcast, but it wasn't about my nutrition or sleep or fueling. It was emotional, and it was manifesting so much that I just so happened to be measuring these things on paper. And I went in to do like a liver, oh my gosh, what is it when they do, like, when you're pregnant? Missing the word. When they look at your
Ultrasound?
belly. Ultrasound. Oh, good
Yeah.
God. I need to put tequila in this. Ultrasound.
We're
And
healthy.
they're like, it's fine. It'll pass. It's normal. But like anything change in your diet or lifestyle, like you need to address it. And I was like, nothing's new. And then I did my own deep research and I'm like, oh, liver is associated with anger. So sure enough, it went away, but I was like, I saw a physical manifestation with a measurable tool of me in a stressed out situation. So always check in with your life of like, go ahead, make the dietary, do the Advil, fine. But it's like, is your life inflammatory right now? And do you mind if I ask, like, do you feel like it is in general?
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting that you say that because, okay, so right when I got divorced, I threw out my lower back. I've never, ever in my life had back issues. I've never had a back spasm that has taken me out. Like that was the first, I was 45, 46, whatever I was, right? That's the first time that's ever happened. And, when I started to dig into it is because I was so stressed out about, well, everything, right? Like what was ahead of me just with the situation. And then this goes somewhere to exactly what you're saying. And then 3 days ago, I felt that little pinch in my lower back again. So that's what, 5 years later, 6 years later. And I was like, first of all, I know what you are because I've had you before. And we're not going to go there. And like, I immediately went and meditated some other stuff and the back pain went away. I didn't stretch. I didn't I didn't do a physical thing. And one could argue like, all right, Tamara, you did a lot of thrusters in the competition last weekend, but that's not it. Like, I know that's not it. Right.
We do thrusters all the time. Yeah.
All the time. Like, I know that's not it. So, I know it. Like, I know it. I know it. And yes. And I think it has to do with what you were saying, which is we're both and definitely going through a phase where like new things are happening and things are leveling up to a whole different level and I feel very much more locked in my work than I have in a long time. And things just seem to be going in the right direction. But it's also a little bit of a panic for me because I'm not used to it, right? I'm used to like hitting this set level. And now it's kind of like I'm being pushed up to this set level. And it's all a little bit scary, I think. Wow, I just said it all out loud. That was all in my lower back a minute ago.
I love that. I think I think that's awesome. And I think it's good that we go deep on these because that's the people that are listening. I know it's resonating. Girl, and I really I want to about you now. Yeah, right. I want to unpack though something that you said that was really awesome that I think holds us back on so many levels, myself included. I've been really conscious of this lately is this fear of something we've experienced happening again, whether it's working out, work, relationships, what have you. It's always there because I think my greatest lessons have been my hardest ones because I'm the varsity human that has to get fully kicked in the face to listen and learn and get it. And then, the second time around, we're like, okay. And I've had this fear of like happening it again. I would say, especially in like relationships and whatnot and seeing certain things. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be there. And when you have that note, when that situation approaches again, and you have that consciousness of like, it's okay. I have this skill set. I've seen this before. I know what to do. And you did. You had the awareness. Not only is this happening again, I know what to do, and I can address it. It's almost like you're addressing what Dave asked me, like with the triggers of like, wait a second, I got it. So I think it's important for people to hear, myself included, to be like, yes, these fearful situations, the things you fear are gonna happen. And at this point, you've run these laps, you have the tools to address them. So that in itself can alleviate some of the fear of like letting go and being like, even if this shit comes back, which it's going to, I'm all good. Like, I know what to do. And that I think is just such a conscious practice because life is going to hand us, shitty hands and like things are going to get bad. And we've run through that. The upside of going through adversity is like, you've got the skills to address it. So gold star for you for seeing it and then being able to like nip it in the ass.
Oh yeah, no, I felt it was like, oh no, not today. We've done this before, right?
And that's all. That's huge.
My whole back just oh my God, I was in the bathroom and my whole back just spasmed. I had to crawl to the kitchen. I was home alone. The kids were with their dad. So I was like, this is not my life.
Yeah.
But I learned my
lesson, magical though. But that's magic that you can go to the bathroom, address it, like get your mind right and address your physical body. That's super powerful. That's remarkable.
Yeah, it's just, well, thank you. I just, you know what? I had to learn it the hard way the first time. Like I didn't make the connection at first. And then it came out over time. But I have a question for you though. So so you had said shedding skin for you, like, are you experiencing, I don't know, whatever you're experiencing, like in either direction because I think the reason I want to ask Kristen is, I mean, you're doing amazing things. And I think people sometimes think when I level up, it'll be a straight shot up and internally. And I think oftentimes we're our own big sabotagers. And sometimes we step up and sometimes we hold ourselves back. So I'm just curious, given where you're taking all this stuff to the next level, where that is for you.
God, there's a lot to that. Yeah, I think that it's even in this moment, I feel calm, which is weird because usually I'll be like, yeah, oh my God, let's go. So it's good that like we're harnessing it. I'm actually pretty tired because it's been a long week. So maybe it's one of those things.
Well, I feel like we're both in that same place. So maybe that's an interesting, like, universal thing of like, you guys are going to come to this a little more centered today.
Well, I think we've crossed paths. I mean, we've been orbiting for, I don't know what, 12 years. And then, Jackie saying like, you and Tamara are so similar. And I'm like, I know we've connected, it's so funny it's coming back. And then Laura is circling back to my friend Jen K and like my varsity humans that are kind of like in similar space, like into this new rebirth. I do think energetically planets, whatever signs, like things are flipping over 2024. Like we're on like a reckoning in general. And for me personally, it's been a very bizarre journey of me wanting to say like I'm into this new space, and my young self, as woo as this sounds, knew a lot early. Like I really had these understandings early that I'm just now at 43 really trying to understand. And I even remember seeing this picture of myself, and I was like sitting by a swing, and I had like this weird in-depth look, and I was like just a kid. It was a snapshot. And I me is like normal me is happy and funny, and even when I take photos, it's hard for me to like be serious. And I remember seeing this picture of my young self, and I'm like, God, I'm so serious. Like this is such a weird picture of me. And when I like think about it now, I'm like, that is so me. I am such a like serious kid. And I had like this, really kind of like deep, serious, intentional thoughts as a young person. And it was just a sense of responsibility, a sense of awareness. Like there was just certain intuitions that are always there that I'm just not understanding. So in one retrospect, I'm kind of feel like I'm getting into this new era. Shout out Taylor Swift. And on the flip side, it's like, it's kind of, I'm actually becoming who I always was, and very grounded, very perceptive, lots to figure out, very imperfect, all those things. And like a lot was there. And I was fortunate to see a lot early on, with, even divorce, infertility. I was 13 when my youngest brother was born. So I saw a lot of these grown conversations that, my friends now are packing with infertility or divorce, like that early. So I understood a lot. I'm just now being like, oh, you know what? I did actually understand that. And it wasn't like I'm a know-it-all. It's now I can stand in and be like, I understand this. So right now it's been a very clear focus of dialed in on one thing versus 1,000 things, the podcast, and stuff's coming in and embracing this idea of being a leader and a key voice. Again, oldest of three, always there as like a quote unquote influencer. I'm still kitschy with that word, but opportunities are coming in like you. And I'm like, I'm embracing them, and it's still a little uncomfortable. And it's like, girlfriend, this is what you've always wanted. This is what you meant to do. And more than us wanting these goals, I think it's what we signed up for as our role in this world. And it's serving the job that we're good at, and we're there. So it's bigger than I think than even what we want. We've signed up for this situation in some capacity, whatever you believe, or we're equipped to serve. And now it's time for us to serve in that capacity and take the reins and lean into it.
So, oh my gosh, there's so much there. So,
and I fire hosed you.
No. I think it's interesting that's going back to the childhood thing. So, I was doing a keynote at a conference. In fact, it was the pet food conference. It was like dog heaven. They had dogs there, Kristen. They had dogs there.
Oh, I wouldn't have been able to focus. Okay.
Oh my God. It was an amazing conference, but it was all the like, not just the pureness of the world, but before them, the ones that actually do the nutrition and the research and the distribute, right? All those guys. So it's huge. But the reason I share that is I shared a story about when I was 14 years old, and this picture of me, it is the funniest picture you've ever seen because it's got like collared up. I have these huge, they're like coiled snake earrings. I'm petrified of snakes. Why did I have snake earrings? I don't know. My hair's got this like flock of seagulls look to it.
Okay.
It's so bad. But I share a story about how I used to rent out clothes in my closet when I was 14. And that's before the internet, before the rent to anything.
Like, I was going to say.
Yeah, you know how girls do, right? Like we go to each other's closets and we borrow each other's clothes. And I had a lot because all my summer money went to clothes. And so I started this little business out of my bedroom, never told my parents. They didn't know how I had all the money for all the Slurpees and all the movies that summer, but I did. and I only had cash in those days. Like there was no digital currency. So, but the reason I shared that story is what I was saying to the audience was, if you look back into your childhood, you'll see clues of who you really are. Yes. And unfortunately, I think over time, especially that more creative, vibrant self gets beaten out of us. And whether that's because we get punished for drawing outside the lines or not following the rules, or it's not allowed in our work, or our boss shuts it down, or our family makes fun of us, right, for having a big, crazy dream. Like there are things that happen over our time. But if we look back into any time in childhood, you'll see it. Like you'll see who you really are and how you really operate and who you really want to be. And a little bit of what you're saying too, which is like the gift that you bring to the world. So I used to kind of balk at the whole, like, go back to your childhood. But now I'm like, yeah, I get it. It is exactly like, it's all there. The blueprint was there and we just kind of shoved it down a little bit or tried to change it in a way that actually I think doesn't work for us. And
totally,
don't get me wrong, like we have to be adults, right? We have to do our laundry and pay our bills and like we have to do adult things. But I think that blueprint needs to carry into adulthood and not stay in childhood.
Absolutely. It's funny because me, you, and Laura, and probably Jackie too, need to do like a speaker conversation. I don't care if it's like a free thing or something, but I did a speech and it was called Influencers in Real Life. And I really talk about that. I'm like, all the credit, all your LinkedIn resume is so great, but all your shit's already there when you're 0 years old. And it's stuff you're doing. And I tell a couple stories where I was like definitively my authentic self at, 9, 10, and 11 and strong and steadfast in my values before I had the language. But like my young self was like, bitch, fuck off. Like, here's what I'm doing. And now my 43-year-old self taps into that human because I'm like, God, how, like, it was all there. So yes, I think the intel's right there. We try and give ourselves way more credit than deserved. And we don't give ourselves enough credit because society conditions us to fit in and mute the gifts. Meanwhile, if we just would have stayed on path, we would have been fine. And I think that's where that big mental health friction conversation comes in for our young humans. So like, and my one message to them would be like, stop listening. Don't do what everyone's telling you. Like literally stop listening to everything. Listen to yourself and do your own thing.
And I think right now, more than ever, I'm not going to get all political on us, but I will say that when I look at what's happening with the college campuses and the younger generation, I think it's a generation of kids who feel isolated and lost and are looking for connection. If I looked at it as a sociological perspective, take the politics out of it, right? You've got kids who are really impacted by COVID and the shutdowns and like lost on a lot of their early years in that way. And suddenly like we're living a life out of fear of we could all die because that's what they were telling us in the media every day. So I think there's a lot to like that misalignment of what we need on the inside because we're tribal. I think humans are tribal. We need tribes. But the thing that I think we forget is tribes worked in the caveman days because different people had different roles in the tribe. So they weren't all the same. So, you had the person who cooked, you had the person who hunted, you had the person who gathered, you had the person who carried the wisdom, you had the person who made the fire. And that's kind of the same thing that we need to get back to today of being different and making sure that those differences are represented and recognized because we'll be stronger together if we're different.
Well, and building your team in it offsets some of the work. I mean, that's absolutely one of my biggest weaknesses, which is ironic because I'm such a team sport animal and I love CrossFit team more than individual. I was a team sport collegiate athlete. And with my business, I do everything. And from podcasts, I want to do a whole post because I don't think people understand how much work we do to get one podcast off. It's wild. And I'm not complaining because I choose this and I love it. It's like CrossFit. And I'm bitching about handstand push-ups, but we want to go to the game. So it's all part of it. And I don't think people know the full capacity of it, but also can understand that you can let go of it and build that team and share the responsibility and just do what you're good at. You don't need to do everything. Like just do your gift and then let, contract, outsource, whatever it is, the people that around you that are better at you than the things you don't even want to do.
So I really struggle with that because I'm good enough at a lot of things, right? Like I can edit the website and build my pages. Yeah. Right. I'm good enough. I can do sales. I can do marketing. I can do social media. I can create reels. Fill in the blank. Right. So, and not great. I'm not great. I'm good enough at all of them. Right.
I'm with you.
So it's been a real struggle for me, even like whether money is tight or flowing in my business. It's a struggle for me to let go of things because I'm like, I'll just do it myself.
Yep. Well,
go ahead.
Go.
I was just gonna say the thing I realized about that is, so let's take the website, for example, right? Just a simple, like I go in and I edit stuff and I change language, I'll build pages and I'll move the navigation bars around. So it'll take me a day, let's say, to do what I want to do. And that could have taken my programmer, my web guy, probably an hour, but also would have been better because he would have been like, that's not going to look good. That's right. But also that's a day I could have been selling and getting the message out there. So I miss out on what I should be doing. And in fact, just the other day, so I was meeting with Jackie about this event we're putting on, this Food and Field Day, June 1st. And Jackie said, and it kind of took me by surprise because we're talking about all the details and blah, blah. And I was like, all right, well, while you guys are doing that, even though I wanted to be part of it too, they were like not giving me anything. And I was like, what the hell? And I said, okay, well, I guess I'll go like invite people, talk to our sponsors, talk to our community. And Jackie's like, that is really where you need to be, Tamara. That is great. Like, you should be out there talking to people and making those relationships. And I was like, oh, she's like, that's your gift. And I was like, what?
Oh, I love that. Yes.
For me?
Nothing like
But
your
it
family
kinda,
keeping it real. Yes.
I know, but right. And that was like a little bit of the division of labor. But I was like, well, I want to be involved in all the details.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's unpack that a little bit. I was gonna, like, as I was interrupting you a little, I was like, I just intuitively, because I think a lot of people are like us and kind of on that new space and entering new ground wherever you are. I just feel
Yeah.
like this message resonates. And it's even funny you talk about the snake earrings, because like symbolically, like snake is representation of shedding the skin and new light. So it's probably ironic that you saw that, or serendipitous. Tell me a little bit more about like what you're taking on and some of this shedding of the new skin. Like just talk to me about this process, because I just feel like people need to hear it.
Well, it started with, see if I can boil it down. It started with a conversation with myself that I am my own worst enemy, and that the reason I'm not yet where I want to be was really me. Like, I was doing something wrong, or I had something wrong inside of me. And I don't mean that as a negative. I meant that more like, it's not about white knuckling it. It wasn't about doing more social media. It wasn't about all those external things, that I needed to focus inside and figure it out. And I don't know that that came from anything specific. I probably watched some motivational video or something and it hit me in just the right way, right, to bring out that voice. I'm not sure. But that's where it really started. And then I broke it down and was like, okay, well, if I were to work on me, what do I need to do? And here's the thing, and this is what you were saying. I think this is where the intuitive voice really comes into play, because my voice is like, put down the iPad. And I know that sounds so basic, but I was like, yeah. But what that was really saying is not, don't stream Love is Blind, because, you know, I love my Love is Blind. But it was saying, like, stop with the stimulus, like, stop letting the external, you know, make you claustrophobic and kind of guide your brain and how you're thinking and what you're doing and distracting you, and like all those things that I didn't realize were happening. So it wasn't about watching TV is unproductive, Tamara, don't do it. It wasn't about that. But my brain, my intuitive self was like, you need to do that. You need to start going for more walks and be outside with your dogs. You need to get rid of the, you know, the headphones while you're doing it. You need to, like, the other thing I'm working on is doing a 4-day backpacking trip by myself. So just going out, like, going off the grid. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Okay. Where are you going?
So I think, I never remember the name of the highway. It's not I-70. It's the one on the other side of the highway. It would go to South Park. And do you know what I'm talking about? What's the name of the highway?
I'm just throwing out numbers. I have no idea. Yeah.
Anyways, Kenosha Pass is up there, over there. Okay. There's that old New York hot dog stand that looks like a hot dog, which is like the most random thing in the world.
I have no idea, but that would be a landmark I could know.
Yeah. Anyway, like, if I-70's here and then you've got Breckenridge and all the mountains and the ridge, it's on the other side of all that. So
the yellow brick road
down, like, yeah. It's more down by like Littleton. Like, you would cut in down there. I can never remember the name of it. I don't know, but
I don't go to those spots.
It's up there somewhere. So I started doing that. And then the other thing, this is what I heard Deion Sanders say. And I love Deion Sanders, because he just is so, I love how unapologetic he is for who he is. Like,
he's always been like that. Yeah.
And and he puts in the work. So I love people who are confident in who they are, but put in the work too.
Yeah.
So he said, be where your feet are planted. Mm-hmm. And that, I was like, oh, that's my mistake. Like, right there. I'm never where my feet are planted. My brain is always somewhere else, on the next thing, what's going to come. So I started working. I got rid of the stimulus in my life. I started really working on being present in a very real way, and be where your feet are planted was a great reminder, because when I'm not, I can just remember that, and it just brings it all back together. And I think I did a little bit what you did, which is I shed a lot of things in my business and just like, here's the things I'm focusing on. Like, these are the things I want to make big. These are things the world needs. These are things that I can bring to the table in my gifts. So I said no to a lot of things that I would have never said no to before. And here's the big one, I think, is because of that, I have more time. Yeah. But I've stopped feeling guilty about sitting there and doing nothing.
Okay. That's a massive skill.
Yeah. It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what are you doing? What do you think? Like, where does that take you? I think I mean, it sounds so basic, right? When I say it out loud, it's not even.
Well, it does. Well, being still is biblical. It's and message will come through everywhere. It's funny, and I'm not a traditionally religious human by any means. I'm more wishing upon the stars and throwing glitter around, but I'm also here for larger order. And being still has consistently been one of my things because do work harder, and that's served me so much in my world. And I was parking at Palladium like years ago one day, and the car in front of me's license plate literally said "Be still." So it's funny, like pop culture and thing literally comes through very clear to me of being still. And I'm actually, very turmeric and tequila. I'm wild animal, love parades and humans and loud. And then I can be at my house for 4 days with just my dogs and do my thing easily. I just recently went on a trip with a fellow CrossFitters Airbnb. We did some influencing things. Shout out to Stacy and Indigo Lodge. It's, there's 4 bedrooms and all this space. And she's like, you can bring people. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to go with my dogs. We'll do some content. Yeah. And there's 3, and I could have did a whole other week. It was beautiful. Up in Critical Creek and all 4 seasons. It was awesome. But just being there, it was kind of hard for me to like be still because my dogs wanted to be outside running all the time. They were in their heaven space. But my things like that being still, that's something I've kind of addressed. My things of like shedding the new skin was more about letting go of fear of what was coming in and then just doing everything. And I'm still to a point where I'm outsourcing some things because I do want to put more budget towards other things. So similar to what you're doing, I was addressing it just a little bit differently. But the being still is always a conversation and something consistently. And I think fear comes back to me, which you talked about on some of these other conversations of understanding that God, universe, Madonna will take care of it. Like I have this consistent message of like, just relax. It's all going to happen. You don't have to do everything. Like it's all in motion. And me having that like trust and faith and that it will be taken care of for me is very foreign to me. Like I don't, is that something you can grasp? Like, is that something you're comfortable with?
So what's funny is I think, well, 2 things. First of all, I used to think that things like that is just things that rich people said. So, you know what I mean? Like when you're wealthy, like you hear those people and they're like, I spend 3 hours meditating every morning and then I cold plunge and I just
3
let it
hours is
go.
aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you just say that because now that you have money, right? Like real, like I'm talking like millions and millions.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
talking
true.
about
No one has
right?
3 hours. Yeah, you're right with
Right.
that. Yeah.
But I'm going to back up on my own self and say that what I've also come to realize is I think I had it flipped. So in my head, right, my jealous brain was like, that's just something rich people say. F you, What I really come to realize is actually maybe not 3 hours, but it's a flip, right? They did the work on themselves, which is meditation, cold plunge, whatever it is that works for you, walking, right, hiking, whatever. And that has helped them excel because they got their mind wired in the right way. And so, but it's a challenge because sometimes, so when I totally let go, things come, but then I tighten up again. And so I have this constant battle of having to let go.
There you go. That sums up right there. Yeah, well, it's like if you grip the sand, it squeezes through, but if you just hold it with like a loose palm, it'll just stay there.
Exactly.
And that's it. It's just letting go of things and just trusting. But again, we've been trained. I was successful. I walked onto a top 20 D1 team as a Colorado athlete, lacrosse 20 years ago, because I worked harder than most. And like I did the extra. And so now to undo that thinking and all that conditioning is so uncomfortable and so hard. And just in general, trust of like trusting something larger to take order, even though, and the funny thing is we have done the work. Like we've done all the stuff to put us in this point right now. I think we lose sight of that. And I don't care about LinkedIn resume and sales goals and all, not even that. It's everything else, the in between, the divorce, the relationship, the in between, the non-measurables. That to me is all the takeaway that's genuinely prepared. And this is a lot what my speech was about your young self, is like all the shit we don't celebrate that's on LinkedIn, that the really, really hard shit that nobody acknowledges, that is the gold star. That's the stuff that really makes us equipped and ready for the next phase that we don't even accredit ourselves for.
Okay, so here's my question for you. Because what you're saying is like, it hits home, right? So how do we balance this idea of white knuckling, working hard versus being in action and in emotion? Because I think correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just going to say it. I'm thinking out loud here.
Sure.
I think it's really important to be in action, but when I'm in action in a state of flow, I'm calmer. The action has the right energy attached to it, at least I think. And then that energy comes back to me in a better way. It's very different than when I'm white knuckling it. And I'm not saying like there are nights where I have to be up really late working, and there are nights where I can be like, you know what, it's all good. At 6, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so it's not really about the time for me. It's more about how the energy I'm putting into it. And I think that sometimes like working hard, too hard, white knuckling repels what I'm trying to accomplish, and the flow attracts it. But there's a difference, right? Between, that was such a circular question, but I feel like there's a difference between working hard and white knuckling and being in action. And I think the universe, whatever you believe in, loves action, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's literally this and sign right here. It's right in between of what it is. Like, I really laughed about that. My Brandy, I'm like, dude, the and sign is the key piece of the whole thing. Well, number one, I'm going to Google because I don't know the answer, but also intuitively what's coming to me is just saying, and this is going to whoop on both of us, but stop trying to figure it out. Stop, just let it be. Just sit there and stop trying to figure it out. No more conversation. And I'm not telling you this, but I'm just going to let this flow. Like, no more deep dives on trying to do better, do more, whatever, because in actuality, when you're saying that, all we're doing is more of what we're just saying we don't want to be doing, figuring it out. Like, it literally is just like, it's going to be taken care of. Like, don't. And again, this makes my soul cringe, even though it's coming out of my mouth, where I'm like, no, we're going to, yes, tomorrow you stop doing it, but KO is going to keep doing it because that's what we do. That's what
as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, totally. Let's go get into politics right now. And it's so I mean, I literally, for you and me both, and for everyone listening, it's stop trying to figure it out. Like, just let something higher take over and let it be, because we've done the fucking work. Like, we've done all of it. We're clear on what we want. It's all coming. And every part of this makes me uncomfortable. And like, every part of me knows also that it's true. And so my short answer is I don't know. And I think that's the point. We don't know. And so like, we can't figure out. There is no short answer to that. You're completely right. It's somewhere in between. And I think that in between is like doing, letting go, but like just doing enough to where it can come and download and come in. And a lot of that is the doing is being still.
So sometimes when I think it's a little bit, this is what you're saying. Sometimes what I'll do, like in the mornings, I'll go to the gym sometimes early in the morning, and then I will come back and I'll do, I know you always laugh at the 5 a.m.
Let's start 5 a.m. Let's go.
We're so proud of ourselves. We're so proud of ourselves. Although I started going to varying classes, you and I talked about this, but I'll get up and I will do my emails, put up my post, right? Do the things that like put stuff out into the world. And what I used to do is sit here and then kind of wait for it to come back, like maybe I would do other stuff, but I'd be at my desk waiting for things to come back. And I don't know that ever really worked. And a while ago, I started walking the dogs after that. So I put the stuff out and then I would walk away. And I'd walk away without my phone, so I couldn't check my email, or I'd walk away. And that, when I get back to my desk, I find that the stuff has returned to me in the way I wanted to, and sometimes better. Excuse me. So I feel like it's what you're saying about like do the work, but then let it go. So I do it in these little bursts every day. I do the work and then I walk away. I do the work and then I go clean the kitchen, whatever. I do the work and then I go. So I try to practice that every day so that cycle continues, and sometimes it's hard. I want to sit here and like white knuckle it.
And do more. That's funny. I'm going to embrace that. I'm in this very weird space of, so CRS Lacrosse was my Colorado Rising Stars Lacrosse, my initial business. We wanted to diversify lacrosse, wealthy white people playing, had provided so much for the world, blah, blah, blah. Started to navigate strategic partnerships. So reaching out to Cliff Bar, reaching out to Monster, reaching out to Reebok, like we had, and it was working. So my 22-year-old self was kind of trailblazing this new space of strategic partnerships before social media, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And ironically at 43, that's turmeric and tequila. I'm reaching out to like ambitious conversations with Rolex, with incredible, like Laura and whatever. And I just reached out to a company I was really hoping to get, and they're open to it. We love it. We just don't have budget. And I'm reaching out to people that I love. So I know I'm kind of trying to push a round peg into a square hole, because like they don't have it. They don't know podcasts yet, but they're things and companies and missions I believe in. So I just want to like open the door, and then like we'll weave the relationship, which has always worked. And in my gut, one of them like, we just don't have the budget. And I had this feeling, I'm like, man, you're doing the same process. It's the same. So, universe has prepared you. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And the process is actually different now of like, put it out there, just let it manifest and let it come to you, instead of, because I got this feeling, I got the email back and they're like, we love all of this. We just straight up don't have the budget. And I genuinely believe it wasn't like the casual brush off. And the feeling inside me was like, it kind of icky, like kind of gross. And I'm like, dude, this isn't, we're past this phase. You don't need to be doing this. Like, you've got tried and true, the stats, the down, all the bullshit. It's all there. Like, just put it out there, put out what you want and let it come, instead of going to like door to door, knocking it down. And I like what you're saying. Like, I need to just put it out there and then let it walk away, instead of white knuckling. And even though I just, fire hosed all of this, let it go and let it happen. And here I am doing it. So it's like, I hear you received. Yeah. It's crazy. Well, some of it's unconscious. I think the key piece of knowing when to do it is just the conscious, like what you did of stopping, going to the bathroom, your space, and healing your back yourself. It's the consciousness of letting it go. I think that's the answer. Yeah.
Well, and that's even just getting up to walk the dogs is hard. Not because I don't love it. I do. I love my dogs, but it means that I have to walk away from my desk and not feel guilty about it. And that's not an easy thing to take 45 minutes out of my day. Like, are you kidding me? I have so much to do. And then the kids come home and I got to like do dinner and like, it's not like 6 o'clock hits, at least not in my world. And I'm like, and I'm done.
Right.
What will I do with my time? You know, like, and if we don't have kids, we have friends, we have family, we have other commitments and obligations. Like, there's always something. So, and Dave said it best yesterday. He said something to the effect of, sometimes it's true, we are doing too much and we need to dial it back. Like, recovery matters. And we're capable of more than we think we are. And I thought that was kind of interesting, but it kind of got me thought about like the recovery side of it too, of like, we can burn hot. Like, I burn hot. I'll never be that even keel person. Like, my flame burns really hot or it's out. And there's no between for me, but the out part matters too.
Absolutely. Have you ever done a brain map? Have you done anything?
No, I really want it. No. So Laura is donating one to Fire for the field day for field.
Jackie did tell me that. Yes. Yeah. I love it.
On June 1st. So if you're listening and you're in Colorado, come. It's going to be amazing. And it supports a good cause. But I have thought about, I feel like I need to do it because I bet whatever's happening here is very fascinating.
Oh, well, if you do it, I would love to. And I'm open enough to, I'll bring my brain map. Maybe we can compare. Cause I think,
oh my God, great idea.
But yeah, I would love to.
Let's do that.
Be on it. Well, and I'm documenting my whole process as part of it because I obviously believe in the exposure of, and I've bled neurofeedback forever. So I'm so excited to talk about not only a human I love, but I know how integritous she is. And that's what it requires in that business with her neural work. But I'm pumped because I talk about it anyway. So I'm like, this is so perfect because I'm such a believer in what it is. I think the podcast, marketing, ads, I think that's all great. But I've told Laura, I'm like, I really think the way people are going to see this is through me sharing my journey in it. So I shared the brain map and the process. So I'm open to sharing whatever it is. So if you ever get yours, open invitation to discuss and compare.
Yeah. I'll text her after the show and I'll get that set up because I love that idea. And I do, like, the more I dig into it, the more I've really come to realize that your brain holds the key to your whole body does really to so much. And you would ask me about kind of what I'm doing. And it really did start with realizing like, I need to understand what's going on in here and deal with this. I'm not a high trauma person. I didn't have a bad, there were like stuff that happened in my childhood and I saw some things, but I would never put myself in the camp of like, I don't put myself in the camp of like, I have trauma from my childhood, but maybe there's something I'm holding on to, but I think that you don't need to be that. It doesn't need to be that extreme. I think everyday people, I also think right now, we're under so much stress as humans, right? As a species, our stress levels, we're just living in a state of stress in a way that we haven't, I don't know, ever. So I think understanding how this works and being able to work on yourself on the inside solves a lot of things on the outside.
Absolutely. And if you don't have access to like some of these more in-depth opportunities, I do think the power of your thoughts is like the next best thing, and really having that consciousness of awareness of triggers, awareness of things. And that in itself can be life-changing of how much you can control because your thoughts are your brain chemistry. And if you can, reroute some of those neural pathways yourself, always here for the medical and the in-depth process. But if you don't access the consciousness of your thoughts, I think is an absolute step one.
So when you came on, I didn't see you immediately. You were in the green room for a little bit because I was going down a TikTok rabbit hole of how to rewire your brain. It was a good TikTok. It wasn't mindless scrolling. It was rewiring. And I think 8 different videos said something really interesting. That I'm going to try. So I'm going to throw it out to the universe for everybody else. Because you were just saying, like, if you don't have access to, mind mapping and upgrade labs and like, cold plunges and red light therapy and like I swear to God, I think my health and beauty budget is more than my grocery budget at this
Oh, for
point. So
sure.
it's getting ridiculous. So, what it said was basically to shock the system immediately and then love it. That's how I would summarize it. So if you
Okay.
are right-handed, get up in the morning and immediately brush your teeth with your left hand. So it confuses the brain, right? Then look yourself in the eye and be like, you're worthy, or I love you, or like whatever mantra works for you to make you feel good about yourself. So like for me, it'd be like, I am badass AF. Like that's kind of how my language would be, but whatever works for you. But the point in these videos was that in order to rewire your brain to get to the new places you're trying to go to, you need to shock the system a little bit, right? You need to confuse it, kind of like muscle confusion, like we do at the gym, right? When we go heavier or we do a different exercise, same kind of thing. So yeah, brush your teeth with your opposite hand.
Love it.
Yeah. And then this mantra, and then deep breathing was the third one, like get oxygen in through the whole thing. So I'm gonna try. I'm a human experiment, so I'm willing to try it. I don't know. Does that sound weird? What do you think?
No, breath work I think is massive. Oxygen, I mean, you can literally get yourself high by just like drinking by breathing and doing deep breaths, and that itself can change your brain waves. But Mel Robbins has a really great technique that she talked about that she kind of helped, develop, like literally invented it herself, and it's super simple. I can't remember the science, but basically if you start to pause and then count down from 5, your brain, like your hypothalamus or something, can't do something at twice or at the same time. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 immediately disrupts whatever your thoughts are.
Yeah.
So it physically stops pieces of your brain, and then you can recalibrate, and you can keep doing that until the thought kind of dissipates. So there's a million little exercises out there that can stop the rumination of negative thoughts or what have you. But I love this simple stuff in the morning of shocking your brain, or you have to think to do something that's not so automatic.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that. I'm left-handed. So I was thinking like, that would be so weird. And I was like, oh, maybe I should start doing like cooking with my right hand. Like I hold a pan with my left when I'm making eggs, right? So maybe hold it with the right. But I think whatever it is you do, the whole point of it was like shock it. Our habits are so ingrained. We've walked the same paths in our brain over and over again for whatever years we've been on this earth. So if we got to get out of that, it's really hard to get out of those pathways. It's actually really hard. So shock it so that you're forcing new pathways to open up by doing these simple things or things that you don't normally do. Like if you normally go left to go to work, go right. Do something that makes it confusing.
I love that. I'll embrace that. I'm gonna do the pause and the awareness I'll take away, and then I'll try and do something in the morning of shocking my brain and letting go of the streaming. That's been on my mind anyway. So those will be my takeaways for today.
It's hard.
Yeah. Well, letting go. I just see spirit being like, get off streaming, get off. Oh wait, leave Love Is Blind. I like that. But everything else, get off streaming, do something else.
Not these 5 shows that you love. Everything but those.
Yeah. Even spirit likes the trash.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I am not opposed to a show every now and again. And I'm not one of those people who's like, every waking moment must be super productive. You can't watch Love Is Blind or, whatever, Arrested Development, which I've seen like 30 times, but I still love it.
Yeah.
But because I do think it helps sometimes shut off the brain. I think for me, it was more about I am constantly bombarding myself with stimulus from the outside in. And I don't watch the news. It's not about that. It's just stimulus. And so no wonder I'm like, my whole nervous system is probably overworked and frayed because it just doesn't have a chance to calm down. And I definitely feel calmer.
That's awesome. Do you feel lighter in general?
Yeah. So I did lose a couple of pounds, but I also made some food changes too. So I'm not sure I'm not sure which is which.
Well, just energetically lighter, even like not even physically, but just like a lightness in general. Well, I actually
said better.
Well, that's a conversation for me because I haven't been sleeping well, so I will naturally gain weight. I think it's like a self-defense thing, and I'll feel energetically heavy. I don't really get on the scale that much, maybe I will just to see, but I feel heavier. So I know when I'm stressed out because my body, I'm probably 5 pounds heavier, but my body will maintain, and that's when I know I need to like let go and release. So it's lighter, literally and metaphorically.
Yes, I feel lighter, metaphorically and physically.
Okay, yeah, I think it fits together absolutely.
And my knees have gotten better. So I think there's something in the whole thing.
The inflammation flushed right out.
And I've never had knee issues my whole life too. Same thing, right? I'm not someone who struggled. I've never had knee issues. I have a weird foot. I was born with a club foot. So I have a weird foot and it's been causing some problems. So I'm sure there's some of that that's traveling up. But point of all of it is, yes, I think lighter. And my brain just I feel clearer. I feel less foggy. And I think it's because my brain's not competing, right, with my work, the conversation I'm having, something in the background. I didn't realize how much noise I was putting in my life.
I hear that. Yeah.
And I love to be alone. I'm like you. Like, I could be alone
yeah.
for weeks and be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of chuckle when people are like, you really, it's not that I don't want a relationship or anything. But it's like, do you really like time alone? I'm like, yeah. And if you don't believe me, I don't feel like you've ever been alone and really just had your time and your thoughts and your freedom. And freedom's also like a really key word in my life. But anyways, yeah, I'm like, if you're listening to this,
freedom
and
is mine. That's my big driver for everything. Freedom of choice, freedom of time.
Okay. Yeah, that's my. Did I tell you that's my keyword for this year? And then I went down to Rhino and I was taking pictures just to get content with all the murals because I want to like to be the graffiti of the podcast world because it's like intentional, but it doesn't look like that. Anyways, and when I was taking the pictures, I looked back and one of it was like this big heart with a thing through it and it said freedom. I'll send you the picture. I got to do a post about it.
Yeah,
but it was just so
that's my word.
like, yeah. Okay.
How funny. Of course it is.
Yeah. You'll have to go down and take a picture with it because it's really cool. And it's like in the back alley. You can't really see it. And I just happened to pull over because I could park and get some pictures. So anyways, yeah, I'm with you. Freedom. Let freedom ring.
I'm all so funny. I can't. It's too far away for me to grab, but I have a sticky note and it says freedom, family, experience, service. Like those are the things I want to guide my life. But freedom has always been my overarching driver for everything. Is freedom.
Okay.
Which really, if you dig into it, also means stability. It means abundance, right? Because I need those things to be free.
Yep. Yeah. I'm tracking with you 1,000%. That's it. Yeah. That was my word. I mean, in general, that's when my young self was like, when people were like, I want to be a lawyer, a doctor. I was like, I just want to be free. Like, let me out of this high school situation. Agreed. We're going to do college, check the box, and then we're on our way.
Agreed. Free.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so next time we're gonna hopefully show some maps, right? We'll have them done by then.
Let's go. Yeah, mine's done. So I just have to do a review, but I think it'll be. I mean, will not be surprised if they're very similar, but I think it'll be incredible intel for both of us. But it'll be cool to see, to compare and contrast.
Dude, I'm excited. I'm excited. I've always like circled around it, thinking this looks really cool, and I believe in the concept of it. I always have.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I've seen what the changes in other people, not necessarily, specifically from brain mapping, but of just reworking how you think and what you believe. And yeah.
We withhold a lot of power. There's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love our spilling tea every month. It's so fun.
We'll put it out there. Can I ask you one final question? How'd you cross paths with Dave Asprey?
His PR team reached out to me about being on the podcast. Yeah.
There you go, about manifesting and things coming in. Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I had him on. And then before that, I had someone, I should send him to you too, who, she is amazing. Her name is Tracy Tourette. And she is Colorado's first female fighter pilot and was the first women to fly combat ready jets and F-16s.
Okay.
She's so badass and such a giving, wonderful heart. Like she's just cool. And she's here in Colorado.
Go.
And
would love that connect.
I'll send her over to you. So I had her and then I had Dave on back to back. And so I was just feeling so good of like, just feeling so good. Yeah, because I love it. Like those kind of people are the ones that, so I'm not about having necessarily celebrities on. I don't really care about that. I care about having, like you, I care about having people on who have done something extraordinary and are everyday people like the rest of us at the end of the day. And so that's the part that I get really excited about. And I want them to be disruptors and innovators. Yeah. And so she was in her own way. I think 88% of the class was men when she graduated. They didn't even have women weren't even cleared to fly fighter jets when she graduated. But she went for it and she got, presidential appointments and all these awards and medals. And she's a very cool human being. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
She was fantastic. And Dave was fantastic too. So offline, we'll talk about how to bring them over.
Yeah. I think I wasn't even asking for that. I was just I just feel like it's such a phenomenal example of that, like letting go and letting it come in. And like, it really is happening. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a credit to you. Like the vibe attracts the tribe. So you're vibrating high and like it's coming in.
Yeah. I think, you know what? It is about the vibration. I agree. Dave came to me. And Tracy, I reached out to because she and I spoke at the same conference a couple of years ago. And I saw her and was like, oh, she'd be great on the podcast. And then it turned out like we're besties now. I was like, she's my best friend. She's my new friend. I call my husband. I was like, I think as an adult, I made a friend today.
Hey, that's big. That's huge as a grown human.
I mean, right? Like I felt like such a teenager. I was like, I think I made a friend.
She sat with me at lunch. We traded friendship bracelets. We're here.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, both of us had Uno Mas on, right? You had them on.
Yeah, Anthony. Yes. Oh my gosh. That was like, I think a year or so ago. He was just kicking off, and like his energy, I'm like, dude, come through. I see you. Like, let's talk about all that you have going on. And awesome human. Yeah.
I met him at a pop-up. He did a pop-up at Mock.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So I bought my
dude, this dude works. Yeah. He did. I met him at oh my gosh, Battle of the Boxes when I was competing, and then he came to Fossil Games. Maybe that's why. Maybe I can't remember. And he came to Fossil. Yeah. So no, awesome dude. And I love when we get our local people. It's so awesome. Like it's so to further expose what's going on in Colorado, because I so often hear like, what's going on out there? Nothing's going on, or I don't see the culture or whatever. And I'm like, no, things are vibing high. It's just we don't put like a full court press on it, or put a lens deep into what's going on. But there is amazing things happening right in our backyard.
Yeah, for real. And there's some amazing people driving new things. The thing that I loved always about Colorado is I feel like it's very pioneering. It always has been. I know we have our shit issues right now, and Denver's become a big city with all the issues that come along with it. So there's a bunch of stuff going on there. But when I lived in New York City, we used to test products always in Denver because it was always a little bit ahead of the rest of the country. But conservative enough that if it went in Denver, it was going to work in Kansas, it was going to work in California, like in all places, right? So we used to always come to Denver for that. And then when I moved here, I felt like that was still part of the culture, was this more pioneering. It's just a little more pioneering. Like it's still a little wild, wild west out here in a good way.
I think we are here for a reason, 100%.
Yep. Yeah. All right, everybody. So we're going to go offline, and we'll see you. We'll spill some tea next month.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah.